Picture this: Strasbourg, 1518. A woman, Frau Trophia, steps into the street and just starts dancing. Not for joy, not for a festival. She just dances. She doesn't stop for hours, not even as night falls. By morning, her feet are bloody, but she's still moving. This isn't a party. It's the beginning of one of history's most bizarre and terrifying events, the dancing plague of 1518. What could possibly compel someone to dance themselves to death? The answer is stranger and more chilling than you could ever imagine. It all started on a hot July day. Frau Trophia's solo performance soon became a spectacle. Neighbors watched, first with curiosity, then with concern. She danced without music, her expression a mask of exhaustion and something else, something desperate. Her husband pleaded with her to stop. She couldn't. Within a week, her strange, compulsive dance had company. Dozens of others joined in, their bodies jerking and twirling uncontrollably in the city square. They weren't celebrating, they were trapped. The city authorities were baffled. Strasbourg's elite, a mix of nobles and guild leaders, convened to figure out what was happening. Their diagnosis? This wasn't a curse or divine punishment, but a case of hot blood. According to the medical theories of the time, the afflicted had overheated blood, and the only cure was, well, more dancing. They believed the sufferers had to dance the fever out of their systems. So, in a decision that seems utterly insane to us today, they decided to help them. They cleared out guild halls, set up a stage in the grain market, and even hired professional musicians and healthy dancers to keep the afflicted moving. They thought they were providing a cure, a sort of medieval group therapy session. But they were actually creating a scene from a nightmare. Imagine the sight: a central stage, surrounded by hundreds of people flailing uncontrollably, their faces contorted in pain and delirium, all to the upbeat sound of pipes and drums. The cure was becoming the catalyst, turning a strange affliction into a full-blown public health crisis. The scene grew more gruesome by the day. The constant, frenzied movement took a devastating toll. People danced until their bones were visible through their torn shoes and bloody feet. They suffered from heart attacks, strokes, and sheer, utter exhaustion. The chronicles of the time describe people dropping dead in the middle of their frantic jigs. Estimates suggest that at its peak, the plague was killing up to 15 people every single day. The very cure, prescribed by the city, was turning Strasbourg's streets into a dance floor of death. The air, once filled with the sounds of a bustling city, was now a cacophony of music, groans, and desperate cries. So what on earth was actually going on? For centuries, this has been one of history's great unsolved mysteries. Early theories ranged from the supernatural to the bizarre. Some believed it was the wrath of a saint, specifically Saint Vitus, who was known to inflict curses involving compulsive dancing. Others pointed fingers at a more tangible culprit: ergot. Ergot is a type of mold that grows on damp rye, which was a staple food. This fungus contains psychoactive chemicals similar to LSD and can cause muscle spasms, hallucinations, and convulsions. The ergotism theory seems plausible, right? A mass poisoning could explain the bizarre behavior. However, the ergot theory has some holes. While ergot can cause spasms, it's unlikely to produce the coordinated, sustained dancing described in the accounts. It also doesn't explain why the phenomenon was so localized and why it seemed to spread from person to person. This leads us to the most widely accepted theory today: mass psychogenic illness, or what used to be called mass hysteria. Think of it as a psychological contagion. The people of 1518 Strasbourg were living under extreme stress. They were dealing with widespread famine, poverty, and rampant disease like syphilis and leprosy. Their lives were, to put it mildly, bleak and filled with fear. In this pressure cooker environment, Frau Trophia's dance may have acted as a trigger. For a population on the brink of psychological collapse, seeing one person break down in such a public and dramatic way could have sparked a chain reaction. The dancing became an unconscious, physical manifestation of their collective anxiety and trauma. It wasn't a conscious choice, it was a societal stress response. This also explains why the authorities' cure made things worse. By validating the dancing and creating a formal stage for it, they amplified the hysteria, essentially giving it social permission to spread. It became a feedback loop of fear and physical release. The dancing plague wasn't a one-off event. Similar, smaller-scale dancing manias were reported across Europe throughout the medieval period, almost always in communities suffering from extreme hardship. It was a dark, recurring symptom of a deeply troubled era. The Strasbourg plague finally subsided after several weeks, not because of the music, but because the authorities changed tactics. They banned public dancing, rounded up the remaining dancers, and took them to a shrine to pray for forgiveness from Saint Vitus. Whether it was the change in strategy or the plague simply running its course, the dancing finally stopped. The dancing plague of 1518 remains a haunting reminder of how fragile the human mind can be, especially under the weight of immense societal stress. It shows us how fear and anxiety can manifest in the most unbelievable ways, spreading like a virus through a vulnerable community. It's a story that's both absurd and deeply tragic, a dance that nobody wanted to join, and one that many would never leave. Thanks so much for diving into this bizarre piece of history with me. If you enjoyed this journey into the strange side of the past, please hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. Let me know in the comments what historical mystery you want to see covered next. See you in the next one.